A very warm welcome to our webinar, How to Get Started in the World of Open Finance. Thank you for dialing in. So for the next 60 minutes, we will talk about open finance, obviously, its possibilities, its requirements, practical considerations, practical challenges, but also solutions. So we are 4 hosts today, and I'm very happy to have 2 IT specialists alongside us from Apinity. Apinity is a Munich-based tech company born in the insurance sector, and Apinity offers an API marketplace specifically for insurance to manage data in a much better way, to make it very short. Yes, and we have here David and Oleksandr. David is Managing Director of Apinity, and Oleksandr is a product manager. So they have both deep knowledge of the IT environment and the API scene, which is great. And I'm here with Charlotte. We are both financial regulatory lawyers, so we are doing the legal part, you can say, maybe the more boring part, but also important, I would say. And so today we will keep the legal part a bit shorter, so you get more practical considerations from David and Oleksandr. And from a technical side, in the beginning, you can see you have a question button. I can also make it like this. You know, it's a bit early. So here, you see everyone as well. And you have a question button on your lower right side. You can ask questions throughout the webinar. The questions will only be seen by us 4. So it is anonymous. So please feel free to use it and ask whatever comes to mind. We will try to answer the questions at the end. And also this webinar will be recorded, and everyone who has registered for the webinar will get a link to the recording as well. So we have divided the webinar into 3 parts. So first, Charlotte and I will talk a bit about the legal requirements, because it is also crucial for the understanding what can you do, what are the requirements, who needs to share data, and so on. Then we will get practical insights, how the data can be shared from an operational perspective, and then we have allocated a bit of time in the end for your questions as well. So let's start with the legal framework here. So to understand the systematic, it is important to draw a broader picture here. So data and access to data play obviously a key role in the age of digitalization. The open exchange of data in the financial sector is what we now mean when we talk about open finance. And this all started in 2020. So nearly 4 years ago, with the EU data strategy, which thought about the measures we need to make data available to everyone who can make use of it, but also protect the data holder as well. And we have horizontal measures, what we call horizontal measures, and we have sectoral measures. And the horizontal measures apply to every sector as well. So this is the legal basis of the data sharing. And then for each sector, we have specific requirements on top of this. So we have the EU, maybe you have heard about this, we have the EU Data Governance Act. We have this in September 23, so quite a while. And it is about the basic processes and structure for using and sharing data, and paves the way already for the sectoral data groups. Then we have the EU Data Act, maybe the most prominent one in this list. Since November 23, it is out there. And it talks about access to data from network infrastructures. So it's also something which can be used in the sexual measurements, or can basically lies on top of the sexual measurements. And then we will get an open data directive. This will come, it's not there yet, it will come mid of 2024, so soon. So just that you have heard it, this is the basis, it applies to every sector. And then we have 9 sectors, which makes total sense because every sector has specific circumstances, a specific infrastructure, and needs therefore also specific requirements for data sharing. So energy administration, this will probably take a while longer. Health makes total sense to have something specifically for the health sector as well. And then we have FIDA, Financial Data Access Regulation. So, and I have a bit more on FIDA. We have FIDA came in a package. The EU Commission usually publishes packages, and then sometimes you're surprised what's in there. And we had in June 2023, we had a payments and financial data access package. We were long waiting for a new regulation for the payment services sector, so PSD3, PSR. And this came along, and alongside PSD3 came FIDA. So FIDA, as I said, creates a framework for sharing of financial data on a really broad scope. Charlotte will get into this in a minute. We now only have a first draft. It is expected that it will, usually it changes a little bit, the text will change a little bit. We all hope to get a final text before the summer, so before the election, but not sure. If we don't get a text before the summer break, due to the election, it will probably be end of Q3 or Q4 when we get a final text. So the election always pauses everything in the EU. So once we have the final text and it is published in the official journal, we have 24 months before it enters into force. So 24 months is a very, very short time. You will very quickly understand that David and Oleksandr tell you about what we have to do on an operational side. So it is really important to start early on. So, and one last slide from me. So from open banking to open finance, it is a bit like from the known to the new. So you might remember when open banking under PSD2 entered the market, it took a while until the market adapted to it. It was only access to the payment account data. So very, very small part of the financial data everyone holds and the regulated entities collect. Sorry, we have 2 new services that came out of the open banking. That was the payment initiation service and the account information service. We have had then several or multiple fintechs who found this possibility and made use of it in a business case. And by now, so many years later, also the large players, the large banks, all have either bought fintechs or have developed their own payment initiation services or account information services. And all we now take for granted, like apps with overview of your payment data or instant payment possibilities when you buy things online, or also if you want to change a bank and your bank account, can also be done by the service providers. All this was completely new under PSD2 when PSD2 came into place. And now we have open finance, and we have it's much broader, it's much grander than the open banking, but now the market is used to it a little bit. So we'll see. I think it is it bears a lot of opportunities for the market, but it also has its challenges. So enough from me. Charlotte can take over.
All right, so I will take over. I have the more technical legal slides, but I will try to explain it quite briefly in the interest of time. So first, more technical slide is the scope of application of FIDA. So we have just heard from Verena that FIDA is covering a broad range of data, and specifically FIDA applies to financial data from the customers relating to the credit sphere, and also to the sphere of financial instruments or insurance-based structured products, and also to crypto assets, to some form of pension data. So as you can see from this slide, the scope of application is quite broad compared to the access to the payment account data. And these data can stem from transaction data, for example, and can also stem from interacting between the institution and the client. For example, when entering into an agreement, this can create such data. And blue part is the part we have already covered by PSD2, because this is all data on payment accounts. Okay. The second part of scope of application are the addressees of FIDA. So FIDA applies to all kinds of institutions, for example, credit institutions, financial service providers, crypto providers, and also to insurance companies. So we have a quite broad range here. And FIDA introduces a new category of institutions, the so-called financial information service providers. I think my connection isn't that good, but okay. Yeah, so we have this new category of service providers. And with regard to sharing the data, FIDA distinguishes between two basic structures. So we have the two-party structure and the three-party structure. And the two-party structure is the direct sharing of data between the customer and the institution, and the three-part structure is where two institutions share the data and the customer just agrees to this structure, basically. Yes, and we have drawn some little pictures here to outline these two basic structures of FIDA. So the next three slides cover the key compliance requirements for the addressees of FIDA. So first, key compliance requirement is ensuring the protection of the financial data. So you would have to use a common format, and I think you would have to ensure that the quality stays the same. You have to ensure to protect the data that you share. You have to ensure that you have proof from the customer to share the financial data. And I think the interesting point is that addressees are subject to providing the customer a customer dashboard. So this is quite new under FIDA. We can see more details on this slide, but I think I will try to keep it brief because the second part covers a lot of the dashboard. So the basic idea is to give the customer a control tool, so it has some control and he can, for example, grant authorization to shared data, or just have an overview of its data that is being shared. So this is something quite new. And I think it's quite interesting to hear details on this dashboard in this second part of our presentation. The last key compliance requirement is the so-called confidential data sharing system. This is also quite new under FIDA. And the basic idea is to establish a contractual and technical framework in order to ensure that financial data is shared in a secure framework, basically. The problem is that we don't have such data sharing system currently. So the market is required to establish a system. I hope this will work. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, we had some similar scheme for the payment sphere. So this worked quite well. So this could be a template for the data sharing system under FIDA. And I think we will hear something more about this in the second part also. I think that was a sneak peek into the legal framework. Do you have any questions with regard to the legal framework or just in general? Otherwise, we will continue with the second part. Probably the more interesting part too.
Okay, thank you, Charlotte. So I'm now then taking over this second part. So let's go into what are the implications of FIDA and how a company can operationalize FIDA and take it into execution. Maybe the first thing that has to be highlighted is that this is a cross-functional effort across an organization. We need a project team, and this project team has to include people from the legal department. We need to include people from compliance. We need to include business units, and we need to include, of course, the IT department, the tech department of the company. This is a program. It's going to be a 2-year plus project. So it is important to define who is going to be the project manager or program manager of this group, into whom this project manager or program manager is reporting, who is the sponsor. Strong recommendation, as there is a huge impact on IT. Most of the operational impact would be not on IT. Make sure that the IT is properly supported. Maybe you could also consider giving the IT organization the whole weight of the execution responsibility. This is the first thing that you need to get in place. The second thing is that as a company, you need to choose in which financial data sharing system you're going to participate. Your company is offering products, so in a given set of countries. So this is going to depend on which products, because there will be different FDSS. and they will also be probably country specific. So you will need to make a choice and decide in which FDSS you're going to participate. Remember, these are the organizations that define the data format that has to be exposed, and also some contractual obligations and liability model, for instance, in case of conflict with or a misuse of data that has been shared. And then you also need to choose in which model or how exactly you're going to participate in the FDSS. Are you going to be a follower? Are you going to be an active participant? Are you actually going to be a founder? And these are important decisions that your organization has to make. Before we go into the IT or operational impact or how this will impact the IT organization, I would like to highlight also why the business units must be there, and also product management, but also business development and strategy. First thing, you should consider your participation into the FDSS as a possible strategic partnership. And you should also consider acquisitions. We know this from PSD3, PSD2. Some companies paved their way into compliance by acquiring companies that were farther into compliance and understanding the implications. And of course, you need to consider threats, but also opportunities. Here, you need to think that any company with big pockets and with the possibility to persuade your users that they should give them access to the data, such a company may come and may access the data that you have for the customer. So these can possibly change the competitive landscape. Your competitors may get some of your data, and some new entrants may come and be able to enter the market because now they can access data and learn from it. But there's not only threats with FIDA, there's also new business opportunities. So you as a company, you can also now access data from other competitors, and you could also access or think of new business models. And remember that unlike PSD2, PSD3, FIDA allows the monetization. So you should consider these aspects. Can your company make actually money with the data that you are anyway forced to expose? So with this, let's go into the purely IT considerations. I have split them in 4 steps. The first one is, well, at the core, you need to expose the data associated to the products that you are selling. So you need to identify which is the product data that has to be exposed. And this data will be exposed following a certain format, following a certain standard that is not defined yet, and that the FDSS entity has to define. Now, this lack of standard, which will not be there at the beginning, shouldn't be an excuse for inaction, because the timeline is, in theory, 2 years. And I think that any company will take probably 1 year minimum to implement all of this. So if you think about the timeline, the time to consolidate the FDSS plus the time that once the FDSS consolidated will take to standardize the data formats, if you wait until that point, you're basically out of time. So you need to start before the data format will be available. And basically what you need to do is evaluate and get ready your software architecture to support FIDA. And basically what you need to do is make sure that the data model of your key products can be exposed. First, you will need to transform it. So you need to develop or make sure that you have in place some data mapping not super complicated, but some data mapping capability, so that from your data model, you will move into the standard data model that FIDA standard is going to define. Then you need to develop or make sure that you have capabilities to expose this data through an API. The next step is that this API has to be exposed to the outside world, and therefore it has to be protected. So typically you will protect it through your identity and access management system and using OAuth 2. But this is what you need to prepare. And again, don't wait until you know which is the precise data format that the FDSS has standardized. The second aspect is that actually this data model that we were talking about has to be now expanded. Typically, your data model, you can think about your product and your users, and users have one or multiple products from your company, so there is a link between users and product data at the core of your system. Now you need to add a third leg, which is this list of data users. Remember that you as a company, you are a data holder, but now the users have given consent to a number of data users to access their data. So you need to have, you need to extend your data model. So now you will be linking products with users with this list of companies, data users that are unique for this combination of product and specific user. With this, you can come to this key requirement that you need to implement customer dashboards for your users, so that your users will be able to see to whom they are giving access, and they will also be able to manage their consent. So they will be able to remove and revoke consent. We will show this a little bit later. Olex will deal into it. And you also need to implement new business logic, because this list of data users can grow when the user gives more permissions, and can be reduced when through the customer dashboard the user will revoke consents. So this is about the core of this new application that has to be developed, how you extend the data model, and what is the business logic that you build on top. As the third leg, I wanted to highlight the importance of your identity and access management system. This IAM system is typically what authorizes access to your system. This is what, when you're using Azure, it used to be called Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, now it's called Azure Entra. There are other products out there, Okta, you go with open source Keycloak. There's a multiple number of solutions there. Every company today is supporting OAuth 2, which is the standard protocol in through one technology or another. And you will also need to support OIDC. Most of products support it, but it has to become active. OIDC is this little layer on top that allows you to identify the user. And from this identification of the user, you go to this concept of three-legged access tokens, and just retain. Why do we call them three-legged? Well, because there are three parties in these tokens. One is you as a company, you are giving access, and you're giving access to another company, which is the data user, and this is the second party. And then the third party is the user itself, because you're giving access to one specific data of one specific user. And because you are also restricting to some of the data, you probably also want to or need to use fine-grained authorization using OAuth 2 scopes. You will also be able to generate an audit log, because there will be possible litigation issues when a customer is claiming, how has my data been shared? You will have to show that, well, the data has been shared because on this day you allowed access to this company and you never revoked it. And then basically this identity and access management system is the engine of the business logic that we were referring before. So this system has to be connected to the new application, because through this system, you are going to get new consents, and vice versa through the customer dashboard. When the user revoke consent, this has to be reflected into this component, so that when a new request will come, basically this component will say, yes, you can access the data, or no, you cannot access the data. No, you cannot access anymore the data because your consent has been revoked. So this would be the third pillar of the project, making sure that your identity and access management system is supporting all the capabilities that you will need. And finally, monetization, because unlike PSD2 and PSD3, FIDA allows for monetization of the data access, so you should do it. And basically, there are just three different ways in which you can do it. First of all, you can externalize this capability by onboarding your API on an API marketplace. We at Apinity, we have Explore, our API marketplace for the regulated industry, so we would be an option. Option number two, you have a tool, you have purchased a tool that serves your API management solution and serves and supports metering and billing capabilities. There are different tools out there. We, of course, at Apinity, we have our own solution, our white label API marketplace that you can acquire as a SaaS product. And of course, you always have the option to develop this capability internally. So these are the four pillars, and basically, in the end, remember the timeline, right? In theory, you have 2 years, and within these 2 years, you have to join FDSS. Then this FDSS will come into a standardization activity and will define the data formats. And in parallel, you need to execute this IT project for readiness. And in theory, there's only 2 years. With this, I think I can give it over to Olex.
Thank you, David. Yes, so we talked a lot about, let's say, the high-level FIDA implementation. Now let's also spend some time on understanding how it could actually look like. So when we talk about implementing FIDA-ready technical infrastructure, this diagram shows you the flows that will basically happen. So you have a data user company, and that is your fintech who wants to offer an innovative product or service to a consumer. But in order to do so, it needs access to data of that consumer to ensure personalized and tailored solution. So it sends a request, so it requests permission to access the data of a customer, and then customer sees it in the customer dashboard that, again, we briefly discussed, and I'll show you in a second. So over there, customer has an option to review access to which particular data this data user company wants to receive. And if I, as a customer, am okay with that, I accept, so I permit access to the data. Now, data holder, the financial institution that actually holds my data, gets notified about it and provides standardized data to data user. And with that, data user company can now use customers' data in order to provide a very personalized and tailored solution. And now, as you can see, what is very important, the entire interaction between all of these parties is facilitated by APIs, which underscores its central place in a technical implementation of FIDA, of FIDA-ready technical infrastructure. So that was diagram. Now let's take a look at how this could potentially look like in terms of some short product demo. Again, that's exemplary customer dashboard demo. So first, on a data user company, remember that this fintech, I, as a customer, browse different products and services, and let's say financial consulting looks interesting to me, so I click on it, and then the pop-up appears briefly describing what the product is about. So it's a personalized financial consulting. And it states that in order to provide it, data user company would need access to my different financial data, such as pension payment, my investment products, potentially my financial statement, etc. So I read. If I agree with it, I click on agree and continue, which then opens another pop-up and see that's already many integrations here. So it shows all existing contract partners that I as a customer have. So we have data holder company 1, 2, and 3, as well as related products like car insurance, pension, liability insurance. So let's say I know that the data that our data user company is interested in is this data holder company 2. So I select this company, and notice I can also select 2, so data holder company 2 and 3. But let's say I want to share the data that data holder company 2 has. So now we see another pop-up, and that's exactly identity access management, what David specified and underscored a few slides ago. So it asks me to provide once again my login and password to ensure that I'm who I am to claim to be, and I'm authorized to actually grant access to my data. So once I fill out the fields, I also see the message that says, upon approving the request, you agree to share your data. So I click approve, and that leads me to this. Basically, that's actually the customer dashboard. So now I see it in the central hub for all my active authorization, which you see in upper part, and as well as revoked or expired authorization. And important to know, so first of all, that's the place which will have all your authorization in one hub, so user can manage them very easily. And also it has all the relevant information you need in order to have an overview, such as, so who is actually your contract partner? What is the authorization date? Who is the data user? What's the customer account, financial product, authorization goal? So, and it's personalized financial advice. So exactly the products that we wanted to subscribe to. If you would see a different product, you could revoke access because that's not what company actually said it wants to use your data for. Where the data is located again. So, and for how long, basically the validity, the duration of validity of this authorization. So for how long the data user company needs your data. But again, you have these toggles upon clicking which you can very easily manage your consent. So at any time you can revoke access to your data, that's your right. And it will just then appear in the lower corner in expired and revoked authorization. Now I want to be cautious of time, so I'll quickly jump also to overview. David spoke a lot about the timeline. I will not repeat every single message, but I want to once again emphasize that timeline is very tight. So you have 2 years for everything, but creation of FDSS alone will take approximately 6 months, and you cannot actually fully implement your tech infrastructure before you know exactly what's in those FDSS. So this leaves you with no less than 15 months, but also it's all very tight, so don't wait, start now. And again, in order to make FIDA a success, yes, it's a regulation and it imposes some, let's say, obligations, but it also opens lots of opportunities, as David mentioned, right? So with a smart collaboration across units, you get access to new monetization streams, new business models. It actually makes finance really open, not only open banking, right? So there is a threat if you don't do anything, but there is a huge potential if you start now and actually take FIDA seriously. Thank you very much. So I guess we can then proceed to questions. Just to recap, tech preparation is very important FDSS strategy. Do you want to actually co-create FDSS, or do you, at the very least, you want to take time and decide which ones you want to join? And teamwork, that's a team effort. It's not just about legal or just about tech. It's about companies making changes and living to new reality.
Yes, thank you very much, David and Alex, for this Very interesting insight. So let's start with the roadmap. We also have some questions we can go into quite now, but just let's to summarize. So if you now have FIDA on your desk, and it's always we now heard what to do, but I think you should start with very easy questions. What is your business model? Are you a data holder, or are you a data user, or do you want to become a data user? So I think this, if you're a data holder, okay, if you're a bank, you already know how this works from open banking, but if you're an insurance company or an asset management company, this will be new to you. If you're a data user, want to become a data user, there are lots of possibilities for fintechs, and I'm sure there will be fintechs rising up to this. So this is the first thing. If you are a data user, you need to see if you need a license under FIDA to become a financial information service provider. This is also something that needs to be checked also from an economical point of view. So I think this is a starting point, very practical. Looking at your business model and how you want to develop your business model. Also, if you're a data holder, you might want to think about your own data user company within your group or something like this. So there are really a lot of possibilities for everyone involved. Then, as we just heard, prepare your IT setup. That this will be the major part of everything. I do not want to repeat everything. We just heard this. Yes, and if you are a data holder, you also have to, and even if you don't want it and find FIDA completely a burden and a hustle, you still have to prepare that your data will be accessed by data users in the future. So you also have to prepare for this. So these are the steps how you can start such a project if you haven't already done. And as we also heard, the timeline is quite tight. And once we have the financial data sharing schemes set up, you still have to have your business case in place before that. So you have to basically start right now. Okay, I think that was, so now we can come to the questions. So we have questions. I can read it and then you can decide who wants to answer this. I can also answer this. So one question was, is there only one scheme, FDSS scheme per country? Probably yes, but maybe for each sector. So for the banking, we already have it. For insurance, we don't have it. For the asset management world, we also don't have it. So yes, in an ideal world, we would maybe also have a European one. Yeah, so, but yeah.
It can also be cross-border, so it doesn't have to be a scheme per country. It can be cross-border. I think the payment scheme that's already existing is a cross-border scheme. So this could be an argument to create this FIDA scheme, also cross-border, yeah, but hasn't.
Yeah. So for I think, for the asset management world, it also would make sense to have a cross-border one. For the insurance world, whatever it is still national, it always makes sense to have a broader European approach. But yes, we will see. Then another question was. There is still a degree of freedom which data elements a data provider is obliged to provide. Who's responsible for defining the extent of data? David, you already answered this in the
Yeah, I think all the data standardization, right, is moving to the FDSS. So
yeah, exactly. So and there you can see the FDSS is really an important part of the whole FIDA scheme here as well. Then we also have a question. This question came in before David actually told us about this, but I will still repeat it because I think it is an important part. So FDSS operators could charge a fee for access to users, was the question. And also data holder who is forced to share the data can also charge a fee for the data it is forced to share. That's were the questions. Well, I can answer this because David already answered it. So the FDSS again is the entity which will standardize the data and also probably will set the fee, the monetization fee. The data holder will get the fee for making use of the data, also to provide the data to a data user. So if you want to become a data user, if you have fintech ideas and see the possibilities here, you have to take this into account from the economical point of view. That there will probably be a fee that needs to be paid, and then you have to have to factor this into your business plan as well. But I think it's a good thing. So that it is a bit of an it is a bit of an incentive also for the data holders to be part of all of this. I mean, they have to be part of this anyway, but it makes it a bit easier, I think. And the FDSS will then also, say the exact amount of the fees, so that it is also harmonized in the EU, and it's not the data at one insurance costs this and data at the other insurance company costs this. No, it will be obviously a harmonized thing as well.
And I think it's an improvement compared to PSD2 because PSD2 prohibits fees in general. So it's quite an improvement for data holders.
So another question, FIDA is not yet a regulation, but just a proposal. That's correct. What could change in the final regulation? Usually there will be a lot of lobbying once the draft proposal is out there. So the overall setup will not change, I'm pretty sure. It will be smaller parts that will change. FIDA also leaves quite a lot of space for technical standards that need to be developed afterwards to fill the gaps in the FIDA regulation and to make it more practical and set out more detailed requirements. And in this level 2, we call it level 2 regulation, there will be a lot of detail, a lot of also now for lobbying to take for the market to actually participate in setting up the requirements. It will be only small parts of this, but it can change. So for example, if the insurance industry, who's quite strong at lobbying, now approaches the European legislator and lobbies a lot, and as well we do not really want this. We are a bit hesitant. So it could be that the time frame will be prolonged, or that we get more more details on the fees in advance, so everyone can factor this in already. And so it can become a bit more, the regulation can become a bit more in the interest of the data holders. On the other hand, if the fintech industry now sees possibilities and also a lot of possibilities for the customers to make it a better experience of making use of the data and so on, there's also a lobby there where we can say, well, the EU wants to be more modern, wants to provide more digital products to make everything more approachable for the customer. This could also be something to be factored in more, but usually it's a bit check and balances here, and so we do not expect to have lots of changes to the draft. I think where it all becomes more clear is in the level 2 regulation, and there's usually also people involved to have a more practical approach, not only the legal approach, but a more practical, also more better understanding of the IT infrastructure in the market as well. So, and then we have an insurance question. Why FIDA scope is currently non-life insurance only and not life insurance, for example, where access to from sensitive personal data is even more crucial, respective by when FIDA will be rolled out to life and health insurance. I'm sorry, I think it's probably about the sensitivity of the data. And as you have seen in the beginning, there will also be a data act for the health sector. So I think the life insurance sector is not really a financial product, it's more health product. And I think if it will be covered, it will be covered in the sectoral measures of the health sector, because it belongs there more than in the financial industry. But I do not know where we stand in the health sector. I can look it up. And yeah. Okay. Okay, there was another question on the FDSS for whole of Europe. Yeah, there could be several. So the question was, could there be several FDSSs in one EU state? Yes, for different sectors, it could be. And as Charlotte said, for the payment sector, it works quite well in the European Union. Yeah, we will see how this develops. Everything is possible, but we will have to see. There will probably be in different countries different FDSSs. The text of FIDA says, as a data holder, you have to be a member in at least one FDSS, which already implies that there will be several. And if you are operating cross-border, you will be a member in several FDSSs. So that were the questions. So any David, Olex, do you want to give some final advice to everyone involved from an IT perspective?
Verena, I think there is a new question. why FIDA scope is currently non-life insurance only and not life insurance, for example. For example, where access to from sensitive personal data is more crucial.
Yes, that's why FIDA scope is currently non-life insurance. Yes, but life insurance is, as I said, it's much more sensitive data. It's more based in the health sector. It is all about this, this insurance cards with the health data on it and so on. This is all a very sensitive topic, and currently the EU legislator is a bit reluctant to make a move here. I think it is also discussed. It is discussed in Germany on a national level currently. Yeah, and it is a very heated discussion here. It also would need to make sure that people with health issues or disabilities cannot have a disadvantage here. So it's not about the financial data as such and how to monetize financial data, but it is about very sensitive personal health data. And I think this is why this is carved out currently, which I think is completely understanding, because it is a completely different setup when you compare it to such an automotive insurance for accidents, such an accident Kfz Versicherung. I don't know the correct term, but this is completely different setup because it is very personal data of individual people. And I think also people would be reluctant to provide anyone data to this, and even allow the data holders or the insurance companies to get money for your personal health data. I think this is just, it's a different business case, and it belongs more in the health sector. And I'm sure eventually we will get a sexual data sharing regulation for the health sector eventually. Okay, now our time is done. It's nearly 11. Thank you very, very much for keeping for staying with us and asking questions. If you have any questions, you can also reach out to any one of us afterwards. Our contact details are on the slides, which we will circulate after the webinar. So feel free to just talk to us also in an informal way. We are happy to discuss anything with you. And yes, thank you also for David, Olex, and Charlotte for the interesting insights you gave here. And then I wish you a wonderful Tuesday and a wonderful rest of the week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.